Hey, what's up, guys? I hope you're all fantastic out there. Let's dive into Bad Boys for Life. It's been 17 years since the last movie was in theaters. The first two were directed by Michael Bay. They are the definition of Michael Bay movies. They dropped in the spring and summer blockbuster season back in both 2003 and 1995. Bay is out for this third one, and in the director's chair this time is Adil Arbi and Bilal Fallah. It's also January, the known dumping ground for studios. So does that mean that this movie is a dud, or does it mean that we have a surprise January hit? Let's find out. Now, personally, I have loved this franchise since I was in high school. Martin Lawrence and Will Smith back in '95 were sitcom royalty, and to see them team up for a big action comedy was amazing for the time. Bad Boys was also the first full-feature movie for director Michael Bay, and he was much tamer back then with his style, surprisingly feeling like a breath of fresh air in the genre. By the time Bad Boys 2 came around, though, he was much more comfortable with all his excess, but still, though, I thought the movie really did thrive on the chemistry and timing between Smith and Lawrence, much like this new movie did, because I think the strongest aspect of Bad Boys for Life was the relationship growth and the banter between these guys. Now, I don't really think you can teach chemistry between actors. I think you either have it with one another or you don't. There is no denying the charm between Smith and Lawrence is still very much in place for this newest entry. I was kind of worried this franchise would feel a little bit stale, and while I wouldn't say it was 100% fresh, I was really surprised to see as much of the humor landing as it did. The writing was something that I personally just broke down into two different sections, one being the comedic dialogue and the other being the overall narrative and the scene-to-scene dialogue that drove the events forward. I thought the comedic side was a surprising success, with a lot of jokes landing for me despite their varying levels of cheesiness, because I do think there were some clever lines dropped in throughout. I thought the attempts at humor were tailored nicely to have both a strong sense of humor as well as a large amount of self-awareness, which really creates just a fun atmosphere for a big action comedy. On the narrative side of the writing, it wasn't the best, yet the story actually does work to build a modest amount of curiosity, and it fuels a ton of fun melodramatics. This movie felt like a soap opera at times, with soap opera level dialogue between the characters, and while it may not have been traditionally good, I think it was still entertaining, much like the Fast and Furious movies were before they started to feel played out. I thought there was a strong, very appealing balance between the growth of Burnett and Lowry's relationship with that of the main plot line, and I enjoyed that, given the beats of the story were not the most compelling. It's really just a constant flow between violent action, relationship growth between Burnett and Lowry, with frequent humor, cheesy melodrama, and just a by-the-number action movie plot, yet it still manages to blend into a very engaging movie that will certainly entertain you if you're at least a fan of this franchise or the genre. It may have been a derivative plot, but I also thought there were a handful of surprises and a few twists here and there that really caught me off guard. For myself, I think those moments were the ones that really made this movie stand on its own without making it feel like just a tired cash grab. As for the performances from Lawrence and Smith, I would say they're pretty much what you would expect from them in these roles. I thought they seamlessly stepped back into the characters, and once again, they show that as a team, they can still carry a big movie on their shoulders. There's also some familiar faces from the past. There's some new additions as well that I thought gave the cast overall a nice range of personality types that were all able to add their own layer of appeal to the movie. Some add to the humor in their own way. Others add a unique just influence to the action, and I thought it all worked. The action set pieces themselves, I thought they were nicely crafted. There's just a ton of shootouts, car chases, and fight sequences that just littered this runtime from start to finish, and it made this movie a very charming ride. A small nitpick I had with this movie, despite enjoying the action overall, was just the visual styling that it had. I think Arbi and Fallah, through their direction, just captured a little bit too much of a Fast and Furious tone and polish. This movie just felt like the offspring of Michael Bay and the Fast and Furious franchise, and despite all the vibrant backdrops, the action, the stylistic framing of shots, it just felt very visually generic in many places. The editing, the saturation of colors, DJ Khaled working the music selection, all of it just made this movie feel more like a spin-off of another franchise as opposed to feeling like a sequel of its own. However, I mean, with Smith and Lawrence carrying the charismatic load, I don't think it hindered the overall enjoyment too much. So with that said, I'm going to give Bad Boys for Life a solid 80%. I enjoyed it much more than I was expecting to, and I gotta say that's really saying something given I already went into this movie wanting to have a great time. I laughed with it, I chuckled a lot at it, the action was violent, it hit with a lot of impact, and the performances from both Smith and Lawrence proved that they still have a great connection with one another that can translate into some solid laughs. Some of the action sequences could have benefited from Michael Bay's skill set in that specific area, but I think this new direction was able to pump some life into this threequel, and if you like this franchise and are possibly on the fence about this new third entry, I suggest giving it a shot because I had a blast with it and walked out of the theater with a smile on my face.
Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, drop it a thumbs up, leave a comment below. I'd love to talk movies with you guys. Share it with your friends, and without question, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can never miss a video. Here are some links to some recent reviews just in case you missed them. All my social media links and the link to our official website are down in the description below, and I'll catch you next time.